Hey guys, in this video, I'm going to talk about what you need to do to get a high score on your speaking module. So let's get right into it. First, we're going to talk about how speaking is scored. It's very important that you understand exactly how it's scored so that you understand what things you need to do more of and what things you need to avoid. So let's take a look. Firstly, fluency and coherence is going to compose 25% of your grade. Next, we have lexical resource, which is your vocabulary. This again constitutes 25% of your grade. Next, we have grammatical range and accuracy, 25% again. And finally, your pronunciation, how you pronounce things. This is very important when you're speaking. So again, 25%. So taken together, these four different components constitute your entire grade, your score on a scale of 0 to 9. Okay, so what the examiners are going to do is basically they're going to assign you a score for each one of these different components, for each one of these different, what I like to call ingredients. And then they're going to average out the score that you got for each one of these different components. And that is going to be your final score on a scale of 0 to 9. So for example, you may get a 5 over here, a 5 over here, a 6 here, and a 6 here. So that brings out your total score to 5.5. Okay, we want to avoid that. We're shooting for 7 or above. And in this video, throughout this course, I'm going to teach you all the different tactics on exactly how to get there. Okay, now let's talk about band descriptors. Now, band descriptors are a very important resource for preparing for your exam. Now, the reason why band descriptors are such an important resource is because they're going to give you a really good sense of how IELTS examiners are evaluating your speaking and how they are assigning you band scores. So, in other words, band descriptors are going to tell you exactly what you need to do and what you should not do to get a high score. Now, let's take a look at what these band descriptors look like. All right, now over here, we've got our official IELTS speaking band descriptors. Now here in the left column, we've got a column called band. And here you can see that we've got different bands starting from band 9 down to 8, 7, 6, and it goes all the way down to 0. Now here we've got our fluency and coherence category. And here you can read exactly what you need to do to get a band 9 for the fluency and coherence band descriptor. Here you can see what you need to do to get a high score for the lexical resource category, also known as the vocabulary category. Here you can see what you need to do to get a band 9 in your grammar category, and here for the pronunciation category. Now, similar to band 9, over here if you look at the row for band 8, you can see exactly what you need to do for each one of these four components to get a band 8. Here you can see what you need to do to get a band 7. Here you can see what you need to do to get a band 6, and so on. Okay, so this goes all the way down to 0. This is, of course, if you don't even attend the test. We hope you don't do that. So once you take a look at these different band descriptors, it'll make a lot more sense to you what things you should be doing and what things you should not be doing. I suggest that you don't just read things for band 9, 8, and 7. Of course, that's what we're aiming for, but it's also important to understand what things you need to be avoiding. Okay, so in order to understand what things you should not be doing, you should also take a look at things that are going to get you low scores, such as bands 4, 3, 2, and so on. Okay, so read these as well. It'll give you a better understanding of what things you should not be doing. Now, I've attached this PDF in this course, so you can read this in your own time. But right now, what I'm going to do is I've basically created an abbreviated version of these band descriptors. So now let's go over them really quickly. Okay, so what must you do to score well? Right now, we're focusing on fluency and coherence. So if you want to get a band 9, these are the things that you need to be doing. I've highlighted the most important parts here in the green color. So in order to get a band 9, you must speak fluently. You should not really be repeating yourself, and you should also try to avoid self-correction. You should not be correcting yourself too much. You should speak coherently, meaning that it should sound like your answers flow well, that it makes sense, that it's easy to understand you. And next, you need to use a range of cohesive features. So basically, this helps you to transition from one idea to the next really smoothly, and it makes you look like a native speaker, okay? So this basically comes down to how fluent you are in your speaking. Next, you have to develop the topics fully. So if the examiner gives you a certain topic and they ask you a certain question, don't just give a one-word answer, don't just give a two-word answer. Make sure that you properly develop your ideas and extend upon your ideas. This is going to boost your score in the fluency category. Now, let's say that you don't do all of these things, and let's say that you wanted to get a band 8. If you wanted to get a band 8, here's what you need to do. You still need to speak fluently, and again, you should try to avoid repeating yourself or correcting yourself. And you also need to develop your topics coherently, meaning you need to use some cohesive devices to make your answers flow smoothly from one idea to the next. And you need to develop your topic enough, okay? So extend upon the ideas and make sure that your ideas are well developed. Next, if you wanted to get a band 7, you need to speak at length. This is the same thing as saying developing your topic properly. And you need to speak at length without noticeable effort. So this means that it should be natural for you to speak this way. Next, avoid repetition and self-correction. However, if you were to do some repetition and some self-correction, that would not really be a problem. You can still get a band 7 with that. Next, you need to use a wide range of connectives and discourse markers. Now, that's just a fancy way of saying that you need to sound fluent. Your ideas need to easily connect, smoothly connect from one to the next to the next. We're going to cover all of this in much more detail later down the road. This is just a quick overview of the things that you need to be doing to score well. Now, what must you do to score well in the lexical resource category? Here we go. If you want to get a band 9, then you have to use a wide range of vocabulary with full flexibility, meaning that it should be easy and natural for you to use a wide range of different words to express yourself in a wide range of different ways. Next, the words that you use should be precise. So that means that you should use words purposefully. You should use them to mean exactly what you want them to mean. Next, you should try to use some idiomatic language. That just means that you should try to include some idioms where appropriate. So idioms are a form of metaphoric way to communicate. So you might say one thing, but the meaning of that thing might be entirely different. Don't worry about this just yet. We're going to look at this in much more detail later down the road. Next, if you want to get a band 8, you have to use a wide range of vocabulary. Also, you have to use some less common vocabulary. So words that are not commonly used, that aren't too typical, try to include some of that in there as well, just to impress your examiners a little bit. Next, idiomatic vocabulary. Again, that's the same thing as saying use some idioms. And finally, to get a band 8, you should paraphrase effectively. So that means that when the examiner asks you a certain thing, there's going to be certain parts in the speaking module where you will have to paraphrase, meaning that you will have to say something that has been given to you. You will have to say that same thing, but in your own words. You will have to rephrase it in your own words. So we'll cover how to do that as well later in this course. Okay, now for band 7, you have to use vocabulary flexibly. Again, that's the same thing as saying that you should be able to use vocabulary naturally, use a wide range of it to talk about a variety of topics. You should also try to include some less common vocabulary and some idioms. Use some collocations. We'll talk more about what that is. Generally speaking, Collocations are basically groups of words that often appear together, that frequently appear together with each other. And lastly, again, you need to paraphrase effectively. Now let's take a look at what you need to do well to get a high score in the grammar category. Firstly, to get a band 9, you have to use a wide range of structures. So that means that you should try to include some compound sentences in your speaking, some complex sentences, and so on. Next, you should produce consistently accurate structures, meaning that the grammatical structures that you use should be accurate, they should be correct, and the mistakes should be very minor or none at all. For band 8, you still need to use a wide range of structures and you need to be able to use them flexibly and naturally. For a band 8, you can produce some errors, but the majority of your sentences should be error-free. That means that over 50% of your sentences should not have any grammatical errors in them. Next, for band 7, you have to use a wide range of complex structures. That's the same thing as saying use compound sentences, complex sentences, and so on. Next, try to avoid few errors, okay? So to get a band 7, you have to frequently produce error-free sentences. So you may have noticed that actually there's a big overlap in what you need to be doing to get a high score. So try to follow that general outline. I think you now have a good sense of the things that you should be doing to get a high score. So let's focus on those things. Finally, our fourth component is pronunciation. So to get a band 9 in pronunciation, you should be able to use a full range of pronunciation features, meaning that you should be able to pronounce words how they're supposed to be pronounced. You should not have trouble pronouncing certain words or certain sounds. Also, this pronunciation should be sustained throughout your speech. So it doesn't mean that you just pronounce some words correctly. No, you have to sustain that and you have to maintain that pronunciation, that correct way of pronouncing words throughout the speaking module. Next, it should be easy to understand you. The examiner should not have a tough time understanding you. Okay, now for band 8, you again need to use a wide range of pronunciation features. It should be easy for you to say a wide range of different sounds and words. Again, you also need to sustain this pronunciation. It is okay to have some occasional lapses, meaning that if there are certain words that you seem to not be able to pronounce correctly or precisely, it's okay to do that occasionally, rarely. Next, it should be easy to understand you. Now, for band 7, the official band descriptors state the following. They say that you should show all the positive features of band 6 and some, but not all, of the positive features of band 8. Okay, so that means that in order to get a band 7, you have to do all the positive features in this row over here, and you should also do some positive things from this row over here, from band 6. So to get a band 6, here's what you need to do. You need to use a wide range of pronunciation features. You need to show some effective use of features, meaning that you should be able to pronounce words correctly. But students who get a band 6 are usually not able to sustain the correct pronunciation for too long. And next, it should be generally easy to understand you. So maybe the examiner may not be able to understand you completely. Of course, that is ideal. That's what we want to aim for. But even if you are understood for most of the time, or you're generally able to be understood, then you'll get a band 6. So the better you perform on the positive features of band 6 and band 8, the more likely you are to get a band 7. I hope all of that makes sense, guys. That's going to be the end of this video. Our beluga whale has decided to take a little nap, so when it wakes up, we're going to move on with our journey and we're going to go to our next stop, which is how this course is structured, where I'm going to tell you how this course is broken down, what to expect, and how you can progress through this course. I'll see you there.